Cindy, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us on Direct-Source Discourse.
Thanks, John, for having me. Super excited to be here today. Cindy Keith, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for NFM Lending. I live in the Northern Virginia area, but our headquarters is based outside of Baltimore, Maryland. I got started in the mortgage industry. I kind of stumbled into it. It was towards the end of college. I took a temp job as a loan processor for a local mortgage company. They specialized in VA loans. This was back in the day when the real estate agents would call in and ask for the rates. What are the rates for today? But that was 100 years ago. So, I consider myself a lifer in the mortgage business. Kind of got sucked in, and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of challenging, and it just keeps me going.
So across your career, what's an on-the-job experience that you're especially proud of, Cindy?
So I was recruited to a GSE back in 2001. The e-sign legislation had just been passed. The GSE had formed a new e-mortgage team. And this e-mortgage team, nobody knew what an e-mortgage was. Very few people knew what an e-signature was. Most of the reference was a Home Depot signature pad. That was like one of the first ones that folks could really relate to. So joining that team, we were working in an innovative space where we were looking at new ways of doing business, deciding what was acceptable, thinking about what kind of technology everybody required. And again, showing my age here, this was back in the time where a lot of the county recorders offices, a very integral part of the mortgage process, most of them didn't even have email addresses. So you're throwing something very big and a big disruptor into a process and trying to figure it out. Well, out of that role, I was excited to be a part of a team that built out these new and innovative ideas. And I was a co-author on 5 patents in this mortgage industry space. So it was super cool to be able to think about new things, write it down, and realize, that you've got something new and important.
Look, I think we both know industry's been crazy over the last couple of years, ups and downs. But when you think back, if there's one thing in the industry that you would change if you had a magic wand, not even just about the last few years, but just in general, anything come to mind there?
When I think about a magic wand, I hope I get 3 wishes, right? The first that hits to mind is we need more inventory. We're at this point right now where if I could make more inventory available, that would help us tremendously. I'd love to see rates in the 5s, right? So we can get some more momentum going. And more consistency in the rules. I think that certainly when you think about all the various regulatory agencies, the state regulations, investor requirements, there's a lot of differentiation that needs to be considered. So when you think about process consistency, that's a big layer that if I had a magic wand, I'd try to bring some more consistency to that process as well.
Let's look at the last 2 years, slower cycle time, or rates have been higher, things have been slower. How are you keeping your team at NFM? How are you staying, or how does your team stay lean and efficient during this time? Like, how have you, from a leadership perspective, really incorporated what we're in, and then work through it?
Yeah, I think the one of the first things that we did as a leadership team is we made sure that everybody realized they had a role in helping us identify efficiencies, right? They were a part of the process. It was really thinking about what could we do better? What doesn't make sense anymore? And no longer the status quo wasn't, this is the way we've always done things, right? We needed to be thinking outside of the box. So when we look at it tactically, right, looking at efficiencies, we're focused on automation. Where can we take manual steps out of the process? That just helps us time-wise, and it helps us risk-wise. But there's also a layer of optimization when you think about these process changes, right? You can do all these great things from an automated standpoint, but if you're not doing them at the optimized time, you can be actually incurring quite a bit more expense than you really should, at that given point in time. So it's a 1-2 punch between automation and optimization.
But when you look at technology, Cindy, how do you prioritize the investments that you're making in technology?
NFM looks at how we prioritize our technology investments. It really starts with our beginning of the year planning. We start with our kind of North Star. And in this year, we have two. One is focusing on how do we lower the cost to originate. And secondly, how do we keep the consumer experience really front and center? We don't want to, short one for the other, right? They really go hand in hand for us. So when we look at and evaluate the lower cost to originate, technology and automation is certainly a key component of that. ROI is number one. The return on investment for us right now is a big element of that. Secondly, we look for real partnerships. We are not just looking for a vendor. We want to engage with a technology partner who understands our business, who allows us to think outside of the box, helps us manage not only the happy path, but really address the challenges that we have. And I think that really kind of comes forward in our Argyle implementation, as a great example, changing our process around verification of income and employment. That has been an area where, introducing a new piece of technology in a very well-oiled process has been, a really big focus of ours. The cost savings is significant. The experience for the consumer is significant. So we are investing time and effort in having a partner who really helps us understand, what we can do to help meet the customer needs. How can we smooth this process out and really make sure that we're not trading off automation or what one has today for something less. It's just something different.
What advice would you give a lender who's struggling to adopt, whether it's new technologies, new processes, new tools that they've invested in?
Yeah, when I think about how to get adoption and kind of move the needle, three things really, the top three things stick out for me, right? The list can be pretty lengthy at the end of the day, but the top three things that we really focus on is pack your patience, number one. Patience is a must. Change is hard. There's psychological aspects of it as well as technical and process change. So just having some patience and listening to folks is a big one. The second is take a hard look at your stakeholder group. Do you have the right people in that group? Do you have forward thinkers, folks who will, see a value proposition, understand, and influencers? How can you identify those individuals that will help you sell the product, or the change into the industry? And the third aspect of it is measure. Measure at the beginning. Where are you, from the beginning? Establish some realistic goals, and those may be very small, just to kind of get your feet wet, get moving, but keep measuring every week, every month. You'll start to see those trends and even start to share those statuses. Where are you measurement wise with your stakeholder group, with your users of the technology, and really show and demonstrate that momentum. And I even go a step further with that. When we think about, the success stories that we're seeing, from those goals, using those influencers and talking about the success of the change so that it becomes real for people.
Excited to hear your responses here. Industry personality that everyone should follow on LinkedIn. Cindy Keith, who's your recommendation?
I got two for you.
Okay.
Because I'd be remiss. Number one, NFM's own Greg Scher.
That's right.
He is using his voice, and the platform to advocate for our industry. His energy is contagious. His style is edgy. He's not afraid to hit topics head on. So he's certainly one I would recommend. Secondly, Mel Robbins. I had the opportunity to meet Mel at an MBA conference, actually, and she spoke, and I was so taken by her authenticity and her positivity that it's always great. I follow her on all platforms, right? Because I like to see the different messages she has between LinkedIn and Facebook versus Instagram, right? You know, different messages. But she's such a positive force, and she gives you simple little nuggets that just can help you build your confidence, even when you're feeling like it's a really rough day. She's a good go-to that, just kind of gives you a virtual high five and, and sends you on your way.
You're a legendary professional in mortgage. You've been doing this a long time. We take it all away, Cindy. We put it all to the side. What's another profession that if you could stop today and start tomorrow, where would you go?
So if I wasn't in mortgage banking, I would love to be a pastry chef. I know that's kind of like a direct opposite of what you do in mortgage banking, but you are kind of creating things, right? I have seen so many cake decorating videos on YouTube. I am a huge fan of just looking at the creativity of people. And it really started, my son, who will be 18 in June. I started with his very first birthday cake. I said, one of the things I wanted to do for him was make his birthday cake every year. And
Wow.
so this kid has challenged me, never the store bought, hey, I want, what have you. He has challenged me, and it has become a family affair every year. We have built a Sonic the Hedgehog cake. We've had an Avengers like 5-tier
Wow.
cake. We did an AT-AT Walker from Star Wars. So, so this has just been a really fun passion, and it just brings out something completely different than what I do every day.
The things you learn on
I
direct
know,
source
right?
discourse. I mean, this is, I'm walking out of here kind of mind blown. But Cindy, I know you're a very busy woman. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for being a good partner of Argyle. And, till next time.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.